the abject anti-American Commusocialist Party. It leaves you speechless when you think about how much corruption that party now contains, how they are an anti-American political party. The Democrat Party of John F. Kennedy, of Bobby Kennedy Sr. My goodness, the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton doesn't even exist anymore. And Bobby Kennedy today shone a bright light on it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to hear it from him. And we're going to talk through what this means for the presidential race. A big day for the Republic and a big day for freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, the right side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, everybody. My name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right side with Doug Billings, right side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to the Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen. I had a great time watching that almost 2-hour speech that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. gave earlier today. Wow. I mean, he absolutely shredded the Democrat Commusocialist Party, absolutely tore them to pieces. Tore them to pieces for abandoning their roots. Its relevance now gone within America and American society. Clearly, they've turned the corner to anti-American policies, platform, and politics. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient, ladies and gentlemen. You would have to be a blind partisan or plagued by chronic intellectual immaturity not to see this. Kennedy was in Phoenix today, part of a meeting that he had there, and he took some time out to hold a press conference and said that he had been engaged with the Democratic Party in continual lawfare throughout the time he announced last April that he was going to run for president until current day. Lawfare, preventing him from being on the ballot, kneecapping him in every attempt to be in a debate or make any kind of other personal appearance and have any relevance at all within the election cycle. He said that President Trump and he both had been victims of this lawfare, and I think that it bears true that you and I recognize this. We understand. We see the tyranny every day. We understand it. And you know what? So does the radical left, but they want this to be what the country becomes. It is, again, I can't say it any clearer. The radical left Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is not a pro-America political party. Look at what they do. Their words are nonsense. Joy and happiness, my backside. They couldn't conjure up joy and happiness if their lives depended on it. Look at the record of Kamala Harris these last 3.5 years. Look at what America has become. The radical left says, well, there's such doom and gloom whenever Donald talks or whenever the Republicans are talking. It's doom and gloom. Ladies and gentlemen, the radical left Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, has encased us in a nightmare. Of course it's doom and gloom, precisely because of their politics, platforms, and policies. A weaponization of our justice system aimed at two candidates. One, Donald Trump, running for president for the Republican Party, and two, an independent, Bobby Kennedy. You might as well be looking at Vladmir Putin in Russia, who puts his opponents on notice and kneecaps them, doesn't allow them to get on the ballots. It's a playbook right out of communism. Kennedy began today by explaining why he left the Democrat Party. And who can blame him? For those of you who watch this show on a regular basis, you know that I've been telling you that, as I say, the Democrat Party of John F. Kennedy, the Democrat Party of Robert F. Kennedy Sr., the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton does not exist any longer. And Kennedy, I think he was masterful in what he did and how he presented today in describing this Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. He mixed together elements of what I've been telling you, that they have blended communism, socialism, fascism, Marxism, all of the isms. Throw them all in there. That's what this radical liberal group in America is. And I will just remind you that their convention, which we had to struggle through this week, they make a big deal about words like joy and happiness, and they put the American flag. The American flag to the radical Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, the American flag is a gimmick for them. They don't stand, they kneel, they sit. They don't salute the flag. They don't put their hands up. They let people outside their venue this week burn the American flag. They don't give the backside of a rat about the American flag. They'll use it during political seasons, and this is the only time you've seen them use such an image of the American flag was this week during their convention. You never see it any other time. They pull out all of the stuff that the Hollywood producers and directors, who literally have been hired to manage their campaign, you've got to get some American flags back in. We're going to stage this for you. You've got to appear to be patriotic. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you, the radical left Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, believes that America needs to be fundamentally transformed. And when I say that, what they mean is fundamentally transformed away from the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers. That's what they mean when they say America needs to be fundamentally transformed. No American patriot can believe those things. It's impossible. An American patriot does not believe that America, thank you very much, needs to be fundamentally transformed. She is perfectly inspired by God, and our founding documents are perfectly inspired by God also and written by men. Thank you very much, radical Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. But Kennedy was awesome today, a great speech. And I want to show you a short clip here of our first clip, number one, where he is talking about why he left and he's running as an independent. And it kind of gives you a foreshadowing of what's going to come. We'll play more of his speech later in the program, but this first clip just kind of sets the stage for what was to come. Clip number one.
Well, the party which I pledged my own allegiance to long before I was old enough to vote. I attended my first Democratic convention at the age of 6 in 1960. And back then, the Democrats were the champions of the Constitution, of civil rights. The Democrats stood against authoritarianism, against censorship, against colonialism, imperialism, and unjust wars. We were the party of labor, of the working class. The Democrats were the party of government transparency and the champion of the environment. Our party was the bulwark against big money interests and corporate power. True to its name, it was the party of democracy. As you know, I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money. When it abandoned democracy by canceling the primary to conceal the cognitive decline of the sitting president, I left the party to run as an independent.
You see what he says there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, we look, conservatives aren't going to see eye to eye on everything that Bobby Kennedy says. And right there in that clip, he says that back in the 60s, the Democrat Party was the party of civil rights and so forth. I would just like to kindly point out that the Republican Party is the party that put forth every civil rights law and legislation in the land. It was not the Democrats. In fact, the Democrats fought the civil rights laws that we now have on the books. Just to be clear, for a matter of record and for a matter of keeping track, of who's responsible for what. But he is correct in as much as the Democrat Party, this Commusocialist blend, has now become the party of tyranny, big, never-ending wars, corruption, big pharma, lockdowns, tyranny, mandates, etc., that we've all experienced, especially during the last 4.5 years. It is now escalated. They are in full force. I call it kamikaze mode, flying the ships of their idealism into the foundation of America, trying to just blow us up. Figuratively, of course. I know they're trying to do away, fundamentally transform what America stands for. And Bobby Kennedy had had enough. They are no longer a pro-America political party. So he's always been, I mean, everyone admits he's always been a long shot for the presidency, but he deserves a seat at the table. He deserves a chance to enter into the debate and have a chance to change or at least affect the discussion that we have every day in this country around politics and social concerns and so forth. But he entered the race last April. In October, he switched because they canceled the primary. And again, the Democrat Commusocialist Party cancels out a key element of a democracy, in as much as giving the people a voice within the party, especially during a primary, to say, okay, who do you want? We're going to put up Kamala. We're going to put up whoever. They canceled the primary. We all know this, and it's absolutely infuriating. They're doing everything that stands directly against what the Republic is supposed to stand for. Again, it's just like Putin or President Xi in China. Keep the opposition off the ballots. I'm going to run uncontested. Congratulations, I've won again for the 25th consecutive year. I mean, it's that kind of thing they're after. So Bobby Kennedy, 70 years old, going to team up with President Trump. And I told you back in April when he announced, I said, they're going to kneecap him. They're not going to let him succeed here. The Democrat Party will not allow Bobby Kennedy to impede them. They will do everything possible to keep him off the ballot and from running. And so there they go. There they did. And that was that. Off the ballots, continual lawfare, because it is the new and radicalized Commusocialist Party that we're dealing with. It is based in tyranny. It's based in persecution. It's weaponization of government against its opponents. Look what they've done to Trump. Look what they've done now to Kennedy. I mean, imagine a major United States political party that would copy the playbook of Vladmir Putin in Russia, President Xi in China, little missile man up there in North Korea, to use government to prevent someone who's running for an opposition party to run for office. I mean, I don't know about you. I can't think of very many things that are more anti-American than that. To use the Department of Justice to file meaningless charges against political opponents, to try to attempt to put one in jail. And they've got a big date for Trump coming up. Don't forget, September 18th, Judge Merchan up in New York with the Alvin Bragg kangaroo court. You remember all of that, right? And by the way, that's the most nonsensical of all of the cases that Trump has been up against throughout these last 4 years. Well, September 18th is the sentencing date, and you can be assured, and I commented this on another show either earlier this week or last, they're going to sentence Trump to jail, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to brace yourself for that. Now, whether or not he'll go to jail remains to be seen. Will they give him bail opportunity? But you can't believe that this radicalized, weaponized Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is just going to stop at the edge of the cliff, right when they've got Trump poised to be sentenced to jail. They're not going to just stop and say, okay, we're just going to stop. They're going to go as far as they can, and they're going to try to sentence him to jail on September 18th. Be aware. All right, lots more to talk about, some more clips to show you from Bobby Kennedy. DougBillings.us, though, ladies and gentlemen, you have a homework assignment. Please consider prayerfully heading over to DougBillings.us and sponsor the program. I'm actively searching for and looking for sponsors. I'm a one-man show. It's how I produce and deliver the show and keep it free. I never charge you. So just decide prayerfully, what is the truth worth to you? And head over to DougBillings.us and offer a recurring monthly subscription. All right, I will be right back after this break. Stay with me. God bless you. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that you could change the trajectory of your aging process? Look and feel better, live younger, be more active, less pain when you move around, sleep better, diminish the lines and the wrinkles on your face? Really? This is what I'm telling you. It's possible. You see, low stem cell activity happens when we get older. And it could be causing many of the health problems that some people have in the world today. Because as we get older, we have less stem cell activity, which means we age faster and we heal slower. The secret is a clinically proven and patented phototherapy non-transdermal patch, whose technology is the result of over 90 clinical studies and over 20 years of research. Your healthier life can begin today, and you can discover true age reversal. Age reversal, ladies and gentlemen. Please go to liveyoungerwithdoug.us. liveyoungerwithdoug.us, ladies and gentlemen. Get over there today. Or if you'd like, text my name, Doug, to 41372. Doug, text it, 41372. And get over to liveyoungerwithdoug.us. Get younger, feel younger. I'm doing it. I'm wearing this patch. I feel great. And so will you. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield, electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code Doug.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. Thank you very much for joining us. Hey, if you want to get in on the conversation today, the phone line's 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. We'll be opening up the phone lines in just a moment. Talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsing President Trump, suspending his campaign for presidency. What a speech. He shone the light of truth on this corrupt Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And when we left off before the break, this party who has used the Department of Justice to file meaningless charges against President Trump, to file charges in every court in the state against Bobby Kennedy, to get his name off the ballots after he had collected millions of signatures, his volunteers, millions of signatures. They go to great lengths to keep him off the ballot. What about America is that? Can I just ask you that question? How does that represent American democracy, the republic in which we live? It doesn't. And this has been the point for the last 3.5, 4 years of this show. The radical left Commusocialist Party in America, formerly known as Democrats, are not an American political party. They're anti-American. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. Just look at what they've done. And so Bobby Kennedy held up the mirror today to the United States radical left, and the reflection within that mirror was the image of communism, Marxism, socialism, fascism. And that's what they are. And cheers and congratulations to Bobby Kennedy Jr. for holding up the mirror to that party so that they can see, and we all could see, the reflection of those elements that are part of that party. The radicalized liberal Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat, I'm going to say it until Trump is in office, is not a pro-America political party. And the Democrat National Committee would not even meet with Kennedy during these last 12 months, 13 months. He claimed that Kamala Harris declined to meet with him or even to speak with him. Well, here's the reason for that. It's done for several, but key among the reasons is that Kamala Harris is being managed by the liberal radical hierarchy of that party. Kamala doesn't set her own calendar. Give me a break. The radical left hierarchy does that for her. She's not allowed to set her own meetings. She's not allowed to be agile and act in an ad hoc fashion to set up conversations with people like Bobby Kennedy Jr. And when they thought that meeting with Kennedy would happen, they pull back and they say, no, we're not going to. The hierarchy I'm talking about, they don't do it because that, if they're thinking to themselves, if Kamala meets with Kennedy, well, that would give him too much credibility, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to distinguish him with credibility by the honor of having an audience with Kamala Harris. So the hierarchy, the members of the elite leadership of the Commusocialist Party, doesn't allow that. And just like they manufacture the fake enthusiasm. And I'm going to get to that in a minute because Kennedy called that out. I was applauding, literally, sitting here in the studio watching the speech, and I physically applauded when he pointed out the manufactured enthusiasm that we see surrounding Kamala Harris. I'll get to that in a minute. But the modern Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is, as he pointed out, it's a party of never-ending wars, and we have people like that on the Republican side too. Don't get me. This is part of the deep state, and so Trump, in his own way, of all of the many accomplishments, and we could spend a whole week talking about the accomplishments of President Trump in the 4 years he was in office, but key among them, and I would put to you probably the most significant of all, is that he pulled back the curtain of the deep state. I don't recall ever. And I've followed politics ever since I was in high school and college. I don't ever recall talking so much, if at all, about the term deep state before President Trump. I just don't remember that. So his pulling back of the curtain and pointing out the depth, the breadth, and the width, and the evil of the deep state is to his credit and probably the most significant contribution he's made. So Kennedy is also doing this, pulling back the deep curtain and showing us that both parties, he's talking about the Democrat Party today, never-ending wars, censorship, cancellation of opposing points of view. You know, I've been canceled. The radical left, Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat, has their fingers and their tentacles in social media. If you say something, especially during the time of COVID, that was anti-vaccine, or if you thought that, the mask was useless, which it is. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say, as an aside here, the mask was never about your health. The mask during COVID was political signaling. And at first, it was a sign of animus towards President Trump. Because remember, he wouldn't wear it. Well, now it's part of the Commusocialist uniform. You see it over. That's what they are. If you see someone in a mask, you can bet they're a liberal. And it's part of their uniform. That's how they identify. But I digress. So a party of censorship, a party of never-ending wars, cancellation of opposing views, corruption, insider trading. I mean, big pharma, big tech, big agriculture, and big money coming from foreign entities and nationals who despise America, and giving the Biden crime family the ability to launder money abroad. All of this corruption was the stuff that broke, the back of Kennedy. Said, this is driving me away. Can't be part of this anymore. I will not be part of this any longer. So the DNC has waged continual lawfare against these two guys, Trump and Kennedy. And I think just as Kennedy was winning signatures, prepared and poised to be on many ballots throughout the Republic, the corrupt and the immoral radical left DNC comes in, swoops in, spends their millions of dollars that they have, takes him to court, and they actually try to erase and do away with the signatures of Americans who had given them to Kennedy so that he could be on the ballot. If there's anything that's anti-America, that's it. I can't think of anything else. Trying to prevent people from voting for a candidate of their choice. I mean, it's tyrannical and it's obvious. And so our mission here on the program is to continue to be a voice, to say this out loud, to use this platform, to wake people up, to continue to tell the truth and challenge this radical left extremism that we see throughout the country. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to win. We're going to win. There are the people in this country, by the mass majority, are decent people, and they see this. Don't let the fake manufactured and engineered enthusiasm fool you. And don't let these nonsensical polls that you see. Harris is not leading Trump anywhere except in the land of Kookville. The same kind of thing where the Democrat Party will try to throw Kennedy off the ballot is the same kind of thing they did when they tried to throw President Trump in jail. It's all lawfare. It's all waged against people who stand in their way. They can't do it through the ballots. You see, they can't, because that's truthful and that's honest. And this radical left Commusocialist Party has no part in the truth. It's deception. It's at best a mixture of lies with the truth in order to fool us. But it's a coordinated effort of tyranny all the way around, through and through. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way to see it. So Trump and Kennedy begin to warm up to each other. They had a meeting just after the assassination attempt on President Trump. They got together and they discovered that they've got a lot more in common than they do not in common. A lot of things they agree on more than they disagree. So a series of long and intense discussions followed. You probably saw some inkling of that in the news over the last few weeks. And they found again that they were aligned more than they were not aligned. Earlier in the week, it's also interesting to note that Kennedy's running mate, Nicole Shanahan, was on one of the news shows, and she said that they were indeed thinking about partnering up with and joining forces with President Trump in order to prevent Kamala Harris from winning the election. So that was an interesting topic, and that was earlier this week, and that's what spurred on and started the speculation that indeed Kennedy was going to drop out and support Trump. But what was interesting about that, in that particular interview, I will share with you when I come back from this break. And also, we're going to open up the phone lines in the second half of the program. So Ed and others on the phone there, make sure that you have some patience with me, please. We will get to the phone calls, 901-316-8404, ladies and gentlemen. And as I always do, right before we go to break, I do ask that you head over, not now, but when the show's over, when your homework assignment, when the show is over, head over to DougBillings.us, DougBillings.us, and prayerfully consider setting up a recurring monthly donation. Looking for sponsors for the program so that I can continue to bring it to you free of charge. We will never charge for the program. So just prayerfully consider, what is the truth worth to you? I'm a one-man operation over here. I'm not monetized on social media. So we do need sponsors, and we ask for them, and it is a blessing if you would prayerfully consider doing so. So that's at DougBillings.us. You stay where you are. I'm going to recap what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said. I'm going to show you a clip where he just shreds the Democrats, lays it out plain and simple what they have become. You don't want to miss this when we come back. Stay with me. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we meet in determined prayer and determined patriotism.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. Thank you very much. Standing shoulder to shoulder with you as we progress forward and take some phone calls. We've got Ed in Florida. Ed, hey, my friend, welcome back to the right side. We're talking about Robert F. Kennedy, the endorsement of Trump, and his calling out of what I call the Commusocialist Party. How are you, Ed?
I'm just fine, and I'm not very good at yakking on the phone, but I saw most of Kennedy's speech on InfoWars, believe it or not, this afternoon, and I agree with a lot of what he says, and I agree with a lot of his positions, but I don't agree with all of his environmental things because we can't build anything or do anything with too many restrictions in that area. But exactly related to that is when President Trump is in prison during the last month and a half before the election, how are we going to protect him from assassination? Because I'd say there's at least an 80% chance he's going to get not less than 3 years prison sentence out of his New York 34-count fiasco. And how are they going to protect him? You got any idea?
Let me just kind of refresh the memory of the audience here. So on September 18th, they're going to have a sentencing date up in New York, and this is Judge Juan Merchan, and he is the judge that is overseeing the kangaroo court, and the district attorney up there, Alvin Bragg, who has filed all of these nonsensical charges against Trump. This, of course, is, of all of the lawfare that's been waged against President Trump, this is the most ridiculous. So he's going to be sentenced on September 18th. And I have said for the last few weeks, I do not believe that this radical left Commusocialist Party is going to stop at the doorstep of a sentence and just say, okay, we got that, we'll let you. They're going to sentence the guy. Now, the question is, these are charges that anyone else, if they're not named Donald Trump, would have the opportunity to post bail. So the question is, will he be given bail? They have to offer it, but to what level will they make it? Will they make it exceedingly high, or will they fall in line with what is precedent up there? So we'll see. And he should be able to make bail if they offer it. I don't know if he'll actually sit in jail or not, Ed. What they want, certainly they would love to have the visual, yes, of course, of seeing President Trump sitting in a jail cell. He would still have Secret Service even if he's in jail. So his Secret Service attachment would be stationed right there in the hallway, you've got to think, or right there. So to your point about how do they protect him, he'd still have, he's an ex-president. He has Secret Service for life. And to my knowledge, none of this lawfare, no matter what its outcome may be, would take that away from him. So there's that. But I don't know if he's going to sit in jail or not, Ed. I think that he'll be sentenced. Clearly, they want that. So if they don't have the image of President Trump sitting in a jail cell, at least they have the words of he's been sentenced and he got 3 years. Never mind that he's out on bail. They just want those words that he'd been sentenced to whatever term, 3 years or whatever it might be. So they want that. It's all about image. It's all about being able to use those words, just like convicted felon. They want to be able to use these words against him, just like they use joy and happiness on their side when their side has done nothing to bring about joy and happiness. So it's all about words and mechanisms of trying to deflect and get people to believe what is not necessarily true. So that's what I think about that. Does any of that resonate with you, Ed?
I'm hoping that that's true, but they bend things to such a degree, and then you have the autonomy of a local jurisdiction. Does the federal government have the right to interfere with local jails? I don't think they do. But I'm not an attorney, So yep. I'm just thinking that they might have the power to do things at that local area. And that's why they have these guns going off at all levels, state level, federal level, and local level, so they can interfere with them in every way they can. So I'm going to wait and find out. They're not going to win the election. We know that. The Communist Party that is now called the Democrat Party are not going to win the election, even if they cheat to the maximum extent, which they are going to. But I think he's probably going to do some jail time. I really do.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Really
And you
me off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're if he does, and thank you very much, Ed, for the call. I appreciate it every time. It's always good to have you here on the right side. Thank you very much. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Ed has a point. I mean, we may see President Trump sitting in a jail cell, and that will be exactly what the radical left wants. I don't think they're going to just stop, wash their hands of the issue, and say, okay, we got this far, but they're going to continue, press, and try to get it. Again, I don't know. I think that bail has got to be offered. It's the matter of how high the bail will be set and how soon President Trump would be able to make that bail. But there's a lot of things that can come into play between now and then. And then, of course, there's the appeal process. So we will see what happens. But September 18th, as it stands now, a very big day. Regarding, again, Kennedy and what happened today, Nicole Shanahan, Kennedy's vice president running mate, said some interesting things in this interview that was given earlier this week where she said that they were thinking about partnering with President Trump. And in that particular interview, she said that Kennedy, as we all know, those who have followed Kennedy for some years now, very concerned about health and human services and, especially chronic illnesses among children as relevant to vaccines. So very concerned about that, very concerned about the environment, but health and human services piqued my interest when Nicole Shanahan said that. She said that one of the key issues in their camp was Operation Warp Speed, and that Trump didn't appear to be aware of the mistakes that were made during Operation Warp Speed. So just to remind you, not that you need to be reminded because you're the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land. I know that you remember this. Of course, Trump put Vice President Pence in charge of Operation Warp Speed, and the key advisor in all of that was Dr. Anthony Fauci. We all remember the debacle, the tyranny, and the abject nonsense that came out of that. We all remember that. And there were mistakes, but they were put forth by Pence and Fauci, right? Now, Trump ultimately was in charge. I am not trying to sugarcoat anything because Operation Warp Speed set in place a lot of things that I disagreed with. Mandated vaccines, the shutdowns and lockdowns, the wreckage of our economy, which was pushed forth by the radical left in such a way. They wanted it because you know what? What they always want is chaos and crisis. If we shut down and wreck the economy, good. More crisis and more chaos comes our way. And then we can get in front of the people and say, the big government's here to save you. And what did they do? Free money. Remember all the free money that was given out? Stay at home, sit on the front porch, drink your malt liquor beer and your wine and your adult beverages, and don't worry about work. We're going to pay you. And they did. And I don't think we're fully recovered even today from that. In fact, the jobs numbers that Biden used to mention all the time, and Harris now is quoting, they are not new jobs, ladies and gentlemen. Trump is right when he calls these rebound jobs. These are jobs that existed when COVID was in place, but were crushed and wiped out because of the liberal radical commusocialist movement in this country that was all about the mandates, the lockdown, the shutdown. Trump didn't want that to be mandatory. He said, take the vaccine if you want to. And he mentioned hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, all those things that would get you canceled back in the day. So I found it interesting that Nicole Shanahan said that Bobby Kennedy wanted to see some admittance that Operation Warp Speed wasn't handled quite properly. And you know what? It wasn't. I mean, Trump did the best he could with the information that he was given. But, having met with Trump a couple of times and other people who have met with him several times, it's amazing. But Trump, the president, you would think he knows everything. He knows all of this. He certainly knows what we know. Well, that's not the case. Trump doesn't know and didn't know what we knew then about the vaccine and so forth and the dangers of it. So there's that. And I know that sounds hard to believe, but it's the truth. And when you look at the Achilles heel of President Trump, really isn't it that he was surrounded by people who were disloyal to him? And it's just one of those Achilles heels, and we've got to pray that he gets better, and more loyal people in his inner circle, people that can get him the truth. And I'm going to try to be part of that. I'm going to try with every ounce of fiber that I have to get him the truth and to talk to people who can get to him faster than I can. So Nicole Shanahan said that Bobby Kennedy wanted to see some response to what happened with Warp Speed. That leads me to think that Bobby Kennedy, will be offered a spot on Trump's cabinet, probably the Secretary of Health and Human Services, whereby he can put in place countermeasures to what Anthony Fauci and Mike Pence did to us, where we wouldn't have to have mandated vaccines, where we could keep Big Pharma under control. In many ways, Big Pharma under control. The nonsense of the prices that they charge, getting things approved faster, quicker, with more safety measures, and not having to worry about the mandates that wrecked an economy based on false news, like the mask was going to help you, which is nonsense. I used to work in major healthcare and hospital ownership before I started this show. Next time you get a box, look on the mask on the box. It doesn't prevent viruses, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't prevent jack squat. The mask is political signaling, and it's a sign and symbol now of the Commusocialist Party. So Robert F. Kennedy is going to install, I think, countermeasures that will prevent the tyranny that we saw under Mike Pence and Dr. Anthony Fauci. I think he's going to be expeditious. I think he's going to be quick, decisive. He's been doing this a long time, and I think that I think you'll see President Trump come around in that area. It's awful hard for Trump to admit, I know, when things don't go right, that he's responsible for. But Operation Warp Speed was not completely. He trusted Pence and he trusted Fauci. And when he found out what Fauci and Birx were telling him, Dr. Birx, remember her? He was angry, Trump was. And so there's that, and we shall see. But I look to, and this is my prediction, Kennedy, Secretary of Health and Human Services. I think it'll be a good fit. Some people out there are speculating that he was going to be the director of CIA. No, not in a million years. Or the Attorney General. No, those are not his passions. His passions are children's chronic illnesses, vaccines, and health and human safety. Look for him to be in that position. All right. I want to talk more about this when I come back, ladies and gentlemen. Up against another break. And again, this hour, this show, asking you to prayerfully consider heading over to DougBillings.us. After the show, head over to DougBillings.us. Prayerfully consider hitting that donate tab and setting up a monthly recurring donation. I am in the process of gathering sponsorships. I am a viewer-funded program. It is me and you. I'm not part of a conglomerate. I'm not monetized on social media. It is you, the good people in the audience, who I trust to say, I kind of like what Billings is saying over there. I like his take on this. I like the truth that I get. And if you do, just offer what you can prayerfully at DougBillings.us. All right, I will be right back after this break. Cheers.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com.
Doug Billings, reminding you that conservatives are better looking than liberals.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The Right Side with Doug Billings. We are conservatives, much better looking than liberals. That is right. That's true. Proven scientifically. We are talking about Bobby Kennedy. What a speech he gave today, shining the light on what the Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, has really become. Remember, they believe, this radical liberal mob, they believe that chaos and crisis are the way forward. Look at what they've done. Do not be persuaded by the words they use. Nonsense. Really. Where's the happiness in this? They say Trump, who's but doom and ladies and gentlemen, these last 4 years, from the border to the economy to energy independence to what happened in Afghanistan, the war happiness, and it's been brought by the power that be in the Commusocialist Party. They believe that big government is the solution to all of our problems, and that's why they love crisis and chaos. They think that those things drive us to be dependent on big government. So, of course, the radical left, Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is going to be in favor of shutting down and wrecking the economy like they did during the pandemic. Anything that causes chaos and crisis. Look at what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have done just in political lives, beyond all of the nonsense and the talk of joy and happiness. Look at what they've done. Or in some instances, what they didn't do. Their actions. Tim Walz, his actions and his inactions allowed Minnesota to burn, specifically Minneapolis, during the summer of 2020 and 2021. The riots, the looting, the murder, the rape, the arson, the anarchy, all of it was allowed by Governor Tim Walz. And didn't do anything about it for 3 days. Where's the joy and happiness in that, Governor Walz? To this very day, parts of Minneapolis are still in ruins, and people have no sense of hope, joy, or happiness there, precisely because of Governor Walz. It's infuriating that they use the words joy and happiness as if it's something they've been bringing about since the time they've been in office. It's exactly the opposite. Kamala Harris working right in tandem with all of that, and we know she's been in favor of defunding the police and crippling law enforcement since the day she was sworn into office. In Minnesota, during those very riots that Tim Walz did nothing to stop, she sets up funding mechanisms to bail the anarchists out of jail so they can get right back on the streets the next day and continue the good work of instilling chaos and crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, this radical liberal movement in America, now headed up by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, is not a pro-America political party. I put it to you. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. Just look what they've done. And in today's speech, Bobby Kennedy Jr. was brilliant, articulate, and very passionate about what this party has become, and it is monstrous. They are evil beyond anything that we've seen in this republic. And they dare to smile, they dare to wave the American flag at their convention, which is the only time that you'll see them with the American flag, is during an election season. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't honor the flag at sporting events. They don't kneel or stand, they sit. They don't put their hand over their heart during the national anthem. They don't sing the words. They let people that are at the convention burn the American flag. It's a gimmick. It's outrageous, and the majority of Americans see right through it. But here's a clip. Here's a good-sized clip of Bobby Kennedy from earlier today talking about the components of what makes up this terrible anti-American party that has morphed itself into a blend of communism and socialism, fascism and Marxism as well. But for me, I just call it the Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. Here's clip number 2, and Bobby Kennedy talking about what Democrats have become.
But I'm sorry to say that while democracy may still be alive at the grassroots, it has become little more than a slogan for our political institutions, for our media, and for our government, and most sadly at all for me, for the Democratic Party. In the name of saving democracy, the Democratic Party set itself to dismantling it, lacking confidence in its candidate, that its candidate could win in a fair election at the voting booth. The DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself. Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court, state after state, attempting to erase their work and to subvert the will of the voters who had signed those petitions. It deployed DNC-aligned judges to throw me and other candidates off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail. It ran a sham primary that was rigged to prevent any serious challenge to President Biden. Then, when a predictably bungled debate performance precipitated the palace coup against President Biden, the same shadowy DNC operatives appointed his successor, also without an election. They installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020 without winning a single delegate. My uncle and my father both relished debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days. This is profoundly undemocratic. How are people to choose when they don't know whom they are choosing? And how can this look to the rest of the world? My father and my uncle were always conscious of America's image abroad because of our nation's role as the template for democracy, the role model for democratic processes, and the leader of the free world. Instead of showing us her substance and character, the DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, well, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus. There in Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Oh, who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate? In contrast, at the RNC convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days. I do interviews every day. Many of you have interviewed me. Anybody who asks gets to interview me. Some days I do as many as 10. President Trump, who actually was nominated and won an election, also does interviews daily. How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters. What most alarms me isn't how the Democratic Party conducts its internal affairs or runs its candidates. What alarms me is the resort to censorship and media control and the weaponization of the federal agencies. When a U.S. president colludes with or outright coerces media companies to censor political speech, it's an attack on our most sacred right of free expression, and that's the very right upon which all of our other constitutional rights rest. President Biden mocked Vladmir Putin's 88% landslide in the Russian elections, observing that Putin and his party controlled the Russian press and that Putin prevented serious opponents from appearing on the ballot. But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Putin's playbook being used by the radical left Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just end by saying this. That clip speaks for itself, and I can't add anything to what Bobby Kennedy said there. It was spot on, brilliant, and articulate. And he laid waste to what this party has become on the radical left liberal side. And just remember, the enthusiasm that you see, I've said this to you before, he just confirmed it. He said what I've been telling you. This enthusiasm that you see coming down in cascade after cascade from the radical left is engineered and manufactured. It's a surge of enthusiasm. Nobody likes this woman. They didn't have a primary for her. In fact, she dropped out in 2020 because nobody voted for her. Nobody liked her then. Nobody likes her now. The only difference is she's the vice president and she's a DEI hire that they cannot fire. And so they're stuck. They're painted into this DEI corner, and they have abandoned democracy in placing her there. They've abandoned democracy by trying to prevent opposition candidates from being on the ballot. Be reassured. Their side does not like her. The enthusiasm that you're seeing is fake, manufactured, and it's demanded from the radical liberal hierarchy. And they are on the phones and on Skype and Zoom meetings with their allies in the legacy media, demanding that there's this enthusiasm. Social media on X and other Facebook and Truth Social, whatever. They're all putting forth fake, engineered, and manufactured demanded enthusiasm. No one likes this woman, and they see what Tim Walz has done in Minnesota, and I'm telling you, decent, intellectually mature people throughout this country on the streets of Main Street America, you know, John and Jane Doe out there who may well have voted for Administrator Biden because they didn't know the nightmare that was going to be coming their way. They're looking around, and they're saying exactly what we're saying. They've lost their way. This is not what I signed up for. This is not America. This is not a pro-America political party. And they're coming to our side in the vast multiple of dozens of millions of people. Rest assured, ladies and gentlemen. Now, that doesn't mean we become complacent. We still get out and work. Vote. Tell your friends. Tell your family members. Share this program, please. If you're watching me on X, please follow me. Please subscribe. Same with YouTube. Please subscribe, follow X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and share the program out, please. And then finally, DougBillings.us, your homework assignment. Consider, please, prayerfully setting up a recurring monthly donation over at DougBillings.us so that I can continue to bring you the program for free. I am actively looking for subscribers and for sponsors to the program. So you can help. $5, $10, 20. If you can afford 100 or more, great. DougBillings.us. Just prayerfully consider it, so that we can continue to bring you the program. Ladies and gentlemen, always an honor, and special thanks to the people over at worldviewtube.com. Please follow and like them. Their programming is phenomenal. Worldviewtube.com and Spreely TV. Good friends over there that help us get the show out as well. I will see you next week, ladies and gentlemen. Have an excellent weekend. Do not worry. The radical left is being more and more discovered, more and more turned out for what they really are, and we will prevail. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it for the Republic. Cheers.
All right, welcome everyone. This is Code Blue with Dr. John and Brooke Witcher. So we are here today, and we are watching live Robert Kennedy Jr.